Hello and welcome back. Do you have strong opinions about magic systems in games, magic in shows? Are there magic systems that you look at and go, no, I don't like that? Or you look at it and you go, ooh, that absolutely rules. I want you to think about that a little bit today as we go through this episode, because today is all about magic. And it's not just going to be your Harry Potter magic, your Avatar magic. It's going to be a little bit of conversation around the everyday magic, things that I think would seem like magic if they were written into a fictional story, but they happen to be part of our reality, so we don't view them that way. And one of those things is creating art. But let's not get too deep in the weeds and too crazy and metaphorical quite yet. First, let's talk about some games and some media and some magic that I love, probably starting with a brief chat about Avatar, the Last Airbender series. This is Game, Develop, Repeat. I am your host, Chris, and as always, thank you for joining me. Avatar The Last Airbender has probably one of my favorite systems of magic just due to its simplicity and the degree to which it is tied into the world. The concept is pretty straightforward. You can bend earth or fire or water or air. Different nations have more of certain types of benders and so on and so on, and there are people who can't bend things. Done. Easy. What I really like about it is, well, one, the extent to which they take this and run with it, but the degree to which the world is built around it. That makes it such a felt, real system. It makes it a world that you can imagine yourself living in. You can start looking at it and going, well, which one would I want to be and what would I do with it? And you can look at the examples of what characters do with it and you go, well, are they missing anything due to creativity, or is there some reason there's a restriction there? And so on and so on. And that is a cool system. Now, there's something about grand magic, right? Incredible moments of swinging fire absolutely everywhere, and speaking to animals you're not supposed to be able to speak to, or just levitating, or all sorts of things. We can look at some Harry Potter examples, right? Creating light, doing wait, hold on. What's the word? Transfiguration? Changing things into other things. You can look at those sorts of examples and be like, oh, that's a cooler kind of magic. I like that. And you know what? Harry Potter does a very good job of all of this too. But there's something about the degree to which Avatar keeps things simple. Levitation, well, that's just something you do by moving the air, right? Maybe you surf on some water. That way you can get above a certain height again because you have such good control over waves. But the other element of this that really draws me in is the degree to which you have to develop your skills and the way that the show brings you through the journey of somebody developing those skills. It's not just the physical gestures. It's not just the words of magic in other series. In Avatar, it is also the mood. It is the connection to the magic. It is a deeper level of understanding that goes beyond a physical skill or talent. There's a meditative tradition tied into it. There's all of these things that are, hey, this isn't just about technique. This isn't just about motion. This is about something deeper and more powerful and more important. And you got to do some real self-exploration to understand how to control this magic. That appeals to me. You might be able to gather why I'm a big fan of self-exploration. A large portion of this podcast is essentially just me thinking through things verbally because it's how I think and trying to make it extremely relatable and hopefully useful to other people in some way. So that element of the magical system really draws me in. I don't love magic systems that are just boom, you know how to do this now, right? I'm not that big on that. I like there to be a lot of effort. My favorite part of the Harry Potter movies, well, this is not accurate to call it my favorite part, but a part that stands out to me is when Harry is struggling with the sort of mind magic. He's struggling with resisting people prying into his mind and that sort of thing, and he has to train that, and it's sort of grueling, and it's a difficult process. I like that, but I like those sorts of training story arcs. This comes up in anime too, like Naruto. I like a lot of that training arc, but I'm getting off topic now. There's something appealing about magic, isn't there? If you've ever read a Brandon Sanderson book, he does a good job of integrating his magic systems into a reality, into making everything very real, very grounded in some basic foundational thing. And now I'm going to talk about video games, because as much as Brandon Sanderson grounds everything in reality and kind of explains how the magic works, a game like Diablo 2 does not really do that. A game, what's another example? So I jumped straight to Diablo 2 because, I don't know, it was the first one that came to mind. I like the magic in Diablo 2. I like the kind of skill system and the development of these things. And you just look at it and you go, yeah, something divine power, whatever. Yeah, yeah, okay, there's devils, so of course there's demons and angels, and I'm the, of course I have some kind of magic power. Yeah, sure, why not? Why wouldn't I? Okay, cool. And I think that is a very reasonable way to approach it in a game. I have the urge to explain everything, but you're playing a game, you got gameplay, you're doing all this. Maybe you're just living in the world and you're not worried about understanding where the magic is coming from, because you, as a person who is interacting with the game, are immersing yourself in the world enough that you're not really worried about where it comes from, because during the gameplay you're a part of it, right? Like if you're reading a novel, one angle is, aren't you so curious about this world? Don't you want to know where this comes from? Let's explain this to you a little bit, because you're not experiencing it. You're reading about it. You're learning about it. You're watching somebody else experience it. But in a game, you are the experiencer. Sometimes, I suppose some games you're not. But generally, games have that element, that interactive element that immerses you into it rather than has you watching it. And that might change the design of magic systems pretty dramatically. I'm trying to think of a game that explains the absolute crap out of their magic system that I really like. And it's not coming straight to me. So let's think through this a little bit more. Most of the games I can think of, magic-wise, just have magic. Baldur's Gate, it's kind of just there. Ooh, Pillars of Eternity. Actually, Pillars of Eternity does a pretty deep exploration of how their magic works. And I quite like it. They do a pretty deep an exploration of their magic system. There's something to it that makes you want to investigate and understand this soul energy, and it's tied into the story of the game in a pretty solid and curiosity inspiring way. There are elements to that game within the first 5 to 10 hours. This is a CRPG, right? So there's a lot of meat on those bones. Within 5 to 10 hours, I was going, I really, really want to know more about this. And it got me more curious, and it got me more invested, and I went deeper into that game. Now that I think about it, one of the first things to draw me in was the unique perspective on how magic works, which is not something that I would think to care about that much. It's not something that I would assume is a huge priority for me, but it did make that game more appealing for me. Now, in terms of training skills, you do it by fighting and you level up, and then you have unlocked new things. Cool. It feels a little bit more like you're just being blessed with magic, You're just and now you can do that. But I like to assume that there's some skill development going on in there, and I'm sure there is. So I quite like that. Baldur's Gate, I feel like the magic is coming largely from demons and it is kind of explained actually. It is kind of explored, especially in Baldur's Gate 3. There's a lot of it's not explicit explanation, which is actually something I like a lot. It's a lot of this character is doing stuff with their magic and you sort of observe the way that they interact with it, excuse me. You sort of observe the way that they use magic, or you see the relationship with some deeper being that gives them their magical powers. I like that structure. That's pretty nice. But enough about the game side of things. Let's talk a little bit about creating games and something that interests me, which is everyday magic, things that we experience and they're kind of magical, and we kind of just don't frame them that way, or we choose to have a certain perspective about it. And I don't know, I want to investigate and explore the idea, the point of view that mundane day-to-day things in life can be quite mystical and magical. I'm going to wax poetic for a moment about the beauty of nature. And I promise you that this is going to tie in to magic and game design. But you got to let me cook. All right, give me a moment here. Have you ever had one of those moments where you see a tree so enormous or so beautiful that it just kind of knocks you off your feet for a second? You go, "What? How does that exist?" If you're on the West Coast, you've probably, well, if you've gone to the Pacific Northwest, you've probably seen a tree so huge that you go, "What the heck? How? That's crazy." Or maybe you've seen the Grand Canyon. Maybe you've seen a enormous waterfall, or this is maybe the most, actually, surprisingly, the most impactful version of this experience that I've had. I watched, I think it was Blue Planet. It was a nature documentary that went deep underwater. And I saw the things that live deep underwater, and I was like, that can't be, that's here right now? You're telling me that that is currently alive on this planet? First off, I'm never touching the ocean again. That thing is just gonna get me. It may not. Oh, it's not predatory. I don't care. I don't know. Has it ever seen a human foot? Like, how do you know it's not gonna grab my foot and pull me under? Anyway, that is a great way for you to really just freak out. Is to see the crazy weird animals that exist on this planet. You can also just get it from, like, planet Earth. You can get it from stuff that lives in the rainforest. Where you just go, what is going on? What are we doing here? Because in your day-to-day life, you're just going to interact with, like, maybe you see some squirrels, maybe you see some deer, maybe if you're out in the desert, you see little reptiles, right? And even that can make you go, oh my God, that's so beautiful. What a cute animal. What a great thing. You can get that connection with nature. And I think that a lot of the magic of our day-to-day life has to do with the natural world. Noticing the mechanics of the natural world, tuning into that, understanding the world that we live in and connecting with it. And we are very separated from that in a lot of ways. Now, I am not proposing some insane idea. It's easy to listen to this and draw additional conclusions, so please focus on what I am literally saying. I think the natural world is quite magical, quite mystical in the way that it factually exists. I think that electricity is baffling and cool, even though we have explanations for it, right? We have the electron theory. We understand what electricity is, like we understand the mechanics behind it. It's still wild. It's still something you look at and go, how in the world have we harnessed this thing? It used to just be like static electricity and lightning. And now we're like, oh yeah, let me just use this to make and run a video game, to record a podcast, to make a microphone work. There are so many things about science and the natural world that are straight up mystical. And now I'm going to tie this in to game design and art and creating things. I think that there is a sort of mysticism behind language, behind visuals, behind color, behind art, behind music. There is a thing that it can do that is easy to overlook. A lot of the times, there's a popular conscious belief of art is just fun. It's goofy stuff that nobody needs, that doesn't really add any value. It just kind of exists, and people do it for fun in their spare time, and that's it. But it's not a necessity. So, whatever. First off, I don't subscribe to that opinion. I think that art has deep intrinsic value, and I think that it is one of the things that makes life worth living. And expression, it's like delicious food, right? If everything was just like those like meal replacement shakes, if all food was that, like, would you enjoy eating at all? It seems like a fundamental loss of life to me. It seems like a tragedy to lose all taste, all flavor, and just have the same thing all the time. It seems like a tragedy to have a life void of art in any medium, to be honest. Losing any one of them, I think, is tragic. I think entertainment is a different conversation. Oddly enough, I think there's too much to that conversation to even attempt to have it, but there's an overlap between entertainment and art, and I think both are extremely valuable for their own reasons. I'm getting sidetracked here. There is a power and a magic that art has, and it is, how do I put this? In the way that electricity can transmit power, right? Like energy, I think that art transmits emotional energy. And the emotional energy from somebody's work of art comes to you, and then you transform it into something else. And you process it, and then you put your own version of that out into the world. And I'm not just talking about people who are creating things. I'm talking about anybody consuming art. Right? It comes to you, you digest it, and then you, in your day-to-day life, are slightly different because of what you have consumed, because of what you have engaged with. I think this is true of every experience that you have in life. But I think what's so fascinating about artistic pursuits is that they are a very intentional construction of an experience that will affect you emotionally. They're a intentional depiction of a perspective that somebody wants you to understand or at least form an opinion about. Somebody gives you a story, somebody tells you a story because they want to entertain or they want to get your thoughts on it. It's not just words. They're not just telling you a story because they're having fun playing. That is often a part of it, but they're playing with you. They're giving you a little joy. They're having you laugh. They're having some kind of human experience and sharing it with you. And the fact that you can do that with just words, with just images, with just sounds, the ability to string sounds together to make somebody cry, the ability to put characters together on a page, just lines of ink, and get that to the point where it changes somebody's life, changes their whole perspective, their whole point of view. The fact that somebody made a game like Celeste that has helped so many people develop an understanding of confronting adversity and growing through it and dealing with anxiety, or a game like Dark Souls, same idea, confronting adversity, but from a different angle. Those are not just somebody playing around and having a good time. They are. They're fun experiences. They're enjoyable. But that's not all that they are. And I really resist the idea that people occasionally put out there that art is somehow trivial. I mean, it is, in that it is playful. It's trivial in the way that a child playing with his friends on the playground is trivial. It is the most goofy, most trivial, fun, exciting thing that does not have to happen for you to survive, but a world in which children do not play with their friends is a dark, gloomy world. And I don't think that art is some luxury that we've only recently developed. I think playing has always been as sort of an artistic instinct. I think we've just gotten more and more elaborate with the ways that we toy with each other's emotions a little bit, right? You create a game, you create a movie, you create a novel, you create an album to mess with people a little bit. Not in like a how do I put this? Not in like a pulling pranks on people kind of a way, but to say, can you imagine this experience, and just rope them into it, completely pull them into this whole illusion that you're creating. You can put somebody into a false reality for a little bit or a few hours, or with games, it can be a very long time to the point where it can be a problem. But it can be an incredible thing. Now, I am not advocating for making games with a purpose. Oddly enough, to me, the idea of making a game that is gonna change lives is that's a I don't like that motivation in the same way that I don't like the motivation of making a game to make money. I think either of those is twisted. It gets away from the fundamental reason to make something, the fundamental reason for play, for games, for art, for whatever, which is you're doing it for the sake of it. And I know that it is a contradictory belief. It is something that is hard to hold both thoughts in your head at the same time, but I truly believe that art is simultaneously just goofing off and one of the most valuable things that humans do. It is a way of building community and connecting, right? It is primitive emotion being spread through extravagant levels of refinement and technique. And this is why I like to liken it to magic. Like to liken it is a rough sequence of words. This is why I enjoy equating it to magic, because a lot of magic systems have this thing where you are refining your skills, refining your craft, figuring out how to do it, or else something terrible might happen. You might do something wrong, and the fire magic that you're playing with might burn a friend. It might burn a whole village down. You're manipulating electricity. Maybe you hit a body of water and there are people swimming in it, right? There are terrible things that can happen. And words are this way too, right? You can do real harm with the things that you create if you intend to do harm, I think. And you can do great stuff if you intend to do great stuff. But in terms of making games, in terms of writing a novel, in terms of all these things, I don't think, I think we're talking about a different beast here, right? You can create something terrible in terms of like some effective propaganda, some brainwashing, some what have you, some convincing arguments to trick people into doing something awful or to convince people into being saints. But in terms of artistic creations, I think most of the time you're not trying to convince somebody of something. You're trying to create an illusion, and usually a beautiful one, at least beautiful in its execution. It might be horrific. It might be a nightmare-scape, but it might be beautifully done. And that, I think, is worth noticing and then forgetting about completely. I really think that it's just worth going like, art is really freaking cool. And it's cool that I can learn to convey my emotions to somebody else through music, through drawings, through a game. It's so powerful. And, they're going to interpret it however they're going to interpret it. So I guess I'll just convey whatever I can convey, or convey whatever I want to, or just play with my friends, Just make something fun and goof off and enjoy the fact that underneath all of that, there's this cool little mystical experience happening where people are communicating and bonding in ways that don't need to put into words. Don't need to be put into words, and don't need to be analyzed too deeply. It can just be what it is, and we can step away from it, which is what I'm going to do right now. I don't have a question for you this week. I'm just going to say I'd encourage you to keep making stuff. I don't know. I don't feel the need to ask a question this week. I will repost the question from last week because I did not actually post it last week. I completely forgot to send it out when the episode posted. And that question was, what part of your creative process do you feel like you have a good grasp of, if any? I'd like to hear about that a little bit, but I'll post that since I forgot to last time, and that's about it. As always, you can join us in the Discord. You can reach out to me at anxiousbuddhagames@gmail.com. I did not give you a big update on my game development. Suffice to say, it is going well. I'm feeling inspired. I'm excited. It is moving forward at a slow clip in terms of day to day, but I think it's making nice progress. I've got an idea that I'm playing with, and I might stick with it. I might play with another idea. But either way, this process is evolving in a way that I really like. That is everything that I've got for you this week. Until next time, get out there, make some stuff, and have fun with it. Thank you for joining me. Bye-bye.